Hey, welcome back to the LTL podcast. I cannot believe that is October 1st, 2023 already. It's already October. This year is flying by, but that's fine because when we get to October, I just want the months of November, December, January, February to just fly by here in the Northeast because that's when we get the worst weather here, in the Northeast. Well, you are all here because we're going to continue our coverage of Karen Read this evening. And I keep saying this is an extremely, extremely important case. If you have not read the PCA, I urge you, please, to read the PCA. It's very important, and then refer back to these streams to get the most latest updated content. Karen Read's trial is set for March of 2024. This will take place probably about, a half an hour from where I am on my days off from work, or I may request some days off to work to get and to actually be in the trial, to be at the trial. So, I do plan on getting there. I'm still working on trying to get Turtle Boy over here on the show. We basically were communicating back and forth one day. It was going really well. We actually set up a time. And we were going back and forth on kind of locking that time up. I don't know. We stopped communicating. So I'm going to keep putting it out there. If anybody knows him, anybody can contact him. We literally worked out the deal to have him come on the show. I just haven't had a date or a time. So I'm going to give it a little bit more room to breathe. I'll probably reach out to him sometime this week and see if we can get him back over here, because I think it's important to get him here. Because he is doing the majority of the non-mainstream media coverage on this case. He's really done some big, huge deep dives into it. If you just go over to his blog, I think it's Turtle Boy News. You can just look him up, Google it. He's done over almost close to 200 entries on his blog about this case, and really peeling back the layers of the onion, and really getting down the deep. And when I started to look into this case, I didn't know much about it. And I heard that there was some questions of corruption in this case. And as I continued to deep dive into this, I was like, holy shnikes, the things that are going on in this case. So let's do this. We'll get to our first video today. I'm going to probably play mainstream media first, and then we'll get the independent media, which I'm going to use some of Turtle Boy's videos tonight to show you the deeper dive. And I'm just wondering out there, do you think that Karen Read is a stone cold killer, or is this possibly a cover-up? I'd love to know. Let me know there in the chat. Okay, let's get to our first video tonight. Of course, we're live, so that means that all of my allergies tend to kick up. All right, Karen Read is going to speak up. This is about from 4 months ago here on Court TV. See what she has to say. See what they have to say.
Good Wednesday evening to you, and welcome back to Closing Arguments. I'm Julie Grant. I'm sitting in tonight and tomorrow night for from my friend Vinny Politian, who is on assignment for his brand new Court TV series, Accomplice to Murder. Be sure to check it out Sunday nights, 8 p.m. Eastern Time. And we have a great hour planned for you. We start this hour with a fascinating case happening in Boston. It involves the murder of a Boston police officer, and the officer's girlfriend, Karen Reed, is the accused. But she says she's being framed. In January of last year, Boston police officer John O'Keefe's body was found bruised and frozen on the lawn of his fellow Boston cop, Brian Albert. Now, prosecutors say it was Reed who killed him by backing into him with her SUV and then leaving him to die in the snow. And police explained the damage to her tail light and said it was consistent with markings on his body, and that O'Keefe had never even entered the home where a big police house party was going on. But the defense team says, oh no, it's all a cover-up. They say that while Reed and O'Keefe did get into a fight that night, that she dropped him off at the house party. And the defense team believes that there was a fight inside that home, some kind of altercation in which John O'Keefe got hurt and was left for dead out in the snow. Now, on April 26, Karen Reed's lawyers announced some bombshell evidence. In a press release, they stated, quote, "We've discovered that Jennifer McCabe, homeowner Brian Albert's sister-in-law, was searching on her phone how long to die in cold on January 29th, 2022 at 2:27 a.m. The prosecution has maintained that John O'Keefe's body was not discovered.
You know, the thing that and I'm going to stop the video here for a second. The thing that always spellbounds me on this case, when I read through the PCA and deep dive through it, everybody saw everything that night. Everybody saw everything that night, but no one saw John O'Keefe. Everybody saw every movement around, in and around that house. All the witnesses that were in and around that house that were interviewed, they saw everything. They saw everything, but they didn't see John O'Keefe. Makes no sense to me. Makes absolutely no sense.
Brian Albert's yard until about 6 a.m., some 3.5 hours later. As we stress in the motion, there is simply no innocent explanation for McCabe's search at that time. The evidence unequivocally exonerates Karen Reed because it establishes that individuals who were in the house at 34 Fairview that night were aware that John was dying in the snow before Karen even knew that he was missing. Now, in addition to that very incriminatory Google search, Reed's attorneys also discovered that they apparently deleted 18 calls from that night, as well as 7 phone calls between Albert and McCabe. The defense attorneys concluding in the press release saying that they were looking forward to presenting this exculpatory evidence at a pretrial hearing on May 3rd. May 3rd came and went. And while the defense did present some compelling evidence for the court, these new details were shockingly never mentioned.
Second undisputed fact, when John O'Keefe was found, he had this set of wounds on his right arm. And the Commonwealth looks at these wounds and says, there's nothing to see here. This is just a road rash. Does this look like a road rash? Of course this doesn't look like a road rash. It's not a road rash that any of us have ever seen. Or does it look more like claw marks and bite marks from an animal? In February of 2017, we know.
I think he's doing a live tonight. I think he's doing a live at 9 p.m.
The Alberts had a dog. By May of 2022, Karen Reed's defense team starts asking questions about this animal. That same month, amazing, the Alberts informed the Canton Animal Control that the dog was remarkably and mysteriously rehomed. The dog was gotten rid of.
Regarding the Canton Library video, this court should know we still do not have relevant time periods. In the video that the prosecution turned over to us, there is a gap in that video from 12:37 a.m. to 12:39 a.m., which would have been the precise time my client would have been driving back past the library. We know that that footage would show that my client's taillight was still intact at that point because...
I'm just going to answer this real quick. Alana says, would they not be able to tell from the car what caused those scratches? Okay, so really interesting, and I don't know if how much you've been following this. Inside the house, Brian Alberts, the owner of 34 Fairview Road, well, owner at the time, had a German Shepherd dog that has been known twice on record for attacking someone. Now let's back up there for a second. Let's go back to that photo. See this right here? And I've compared it before too. And I can't enlarge it, but you can look up the wounds for John O'Keefe on his arm. Those to me look like dog scratches and dog bites. I've compared them side by side. We've pulled up pictures and it's pretty damn 100% right on. So let me ask you something if it wasn't the dog, then why was the dog, why did they get rid of the dog after the incident? If it wasn't anything that went on in that house, why did the house sell in November for $50,000 under market value? Why so quick to get out of that house? Why replace the floor in the basement before the house was sold? Rumors are that the floor was replaced in the basement. So was there an attack there? Possibly, could be, maybe, allegedly. It's interesting. Very interesting stuff.
The dog was gotten rid of.
Regarding the Canton library video, this court should know we still do not have relevant time periods.
If you want to talk about backing up 62 feet, okay, the prosecution, the new story is this. The new theory is this. 2 inches of snow on the ground. It had just started snowing at that time. It was blizzard whiteout conditions as the night went on. 2 inches of snow on the ground. They said that Karen Reed pulled up 62 feet to the curb from where she would be from John O'Keefe. I've been down there. I showed you video of what it looks like there. The road curves. The road is on a 20 to 30 degree grade. They said that she parked out 62 feet and backed up at 24 miles an hour. Now, when Turtle Boy went down there on a clear day, no obstruction on the road, no snow on the road, pretty similar SUV that he used because he has an SUV, got in his SUV, pounded on, measured out 62 feet, backed up as fast as he could only hit 19 miles an hour. And when he did, because of the curvature on the road, just before the flagpole and the fire hydrant where they found John O'Keefe's body in the snow, it curved. What did he do? He hit the curb. So you're telling me that Karen Reed, someone that has never been to that house, shows up in a snowstorm, pulls up 62 feet. John gets out of the car. John's supposedly standing behind the car. 62 feet is going to give you at least 3, 4, 5 seconds to get out of the way with someone backing up. You're just going to stand there and let someone run into you. Curve in the road, snow on the ground, perfectly lined up. I don't see it happening. I don't see it happening. Sorry.
The video that the prosecution turned over to us, there is a gap in that video from 12:37 a.m. to 12:39 a.m., which would have been the precise time my client would have been driving back past the library. We know that that footage would show that my client's taillight was still intact at that point because she never struck John O'Keefe with her vehicle. Yet the prosecution has produced a video from the library with that crucial time period missing.
But if John O'Keefe was beaten unconscious in, for instance, the basement of that house, and later moved to the front yard after the guests left, there's your answer as to why no one saw him. Why would Brian Albert rip out the floor of his basement months after John O'Keefe was killed? The second question, why would he sell his house? So in the months following John O'Keefe's death, the dog has been gotten rid of. Got rid of the evidence in the basement. Got rid of the house, the crime scene itself. Your Honor, I would submit to the court that evidence is literally being destroyed right under our nose.
Prior to today, the defense had issued some subpoenas requesting that Brian Albert and his sister-in-law, Jennifer McCabe, appear in court.
Most important thing that I need everybody to do right now, if you've just come into the room, smash that like button. Our goal is 100 likes tonight. LTL podcast is definitely suppressed by the algorithm. We need those upvotes. We need to get it out past 100 likes to tell YouTube that LTL belongs here and belongs covering these cases. This case is so important, and I say this night after night after night. And we know the other channels, they continue to beat that drum. They continue to put out Idaho content. There's nothing new in that case. There's nothing new that they're going to break. We're not going to find anything until this goes to trial. I understand. We're still going to get hearings. We're going to review those hearings. But I'm going to tell you, you're beating the drum. You're beating the drum. That's going to go on and on and on and on and on. There's nothing new to cover in this case. This case right now is one of the most important cases out there. One of the most important cases out there. And I urge everybody to look at these streams. Do your research. Again, I have the PCA pinned up at the top. But I want to make it very clear. I'm going to make it very, very clear to everybody this evening. I back the blue. I'm a First Amendment, Second Amendment guy. Okay? It's not about me saying I hate police, because I don't. But there's a big but there. Big buts. And I cannot lie. Big but there. If there's a cover up, if there is corruption, this needs to be brought to light. And this can never, ever happen again. It can never happen again. There's good cops and there's bad cops. There's good people and there's bad people. And if either of those bad people did something here, then we need to find justice for John O'Keefe. That's the most important thing. But I've seen and I've researched into this, and I'll tell you, if I was on a jury today, if I was on the Karen Reed jury right now, there's no way in hell that I could convict her on any of these charges. There's so much reasonable doubt in this case. There is so much reasonable doubt in this case. I'm going to tell you, she's got some damn good lawyers. Damn good lawyers. She's got some damn good lawyers. All right, let's continue with the video here.
Court, so they could question them at a hearing that was scheduled for tomorrow. They were saying that they wanted to dig into the exonerating phone evidence, and the defense also planning to bring in a data extraction expert as well. In the hearing that happened today, Judge Beverly Cannon quashed those two subpoenas and canceled tomorrow's hearing. With the defense team clearly frustrated, let's take a listen to some of what happened in the courtroom and some of the press conference afterward.
Brian Albert is integrally involved in the death of John O'Keefe. He's implicated in the death of John O'Keefe. Jennifer McCabe is equally implicated in the death of John O'Keefe and the subsequent cover-up of that death. We're entitled to defend our client. It couldn't be more specific, our request. It couldn't be more narrowly tailored. And we couldn't need it more. It couldn't be more necessary for Karen Reed to defend herself. She's entitled to this information. She's constitutionally entitled to defend herself, and she's constitutionally entitled to this information. We can't just walk into court, Your Honor, at a trial and start spewing things that we think might be true. We know them to be true. We have to have evidence to back those statements up. We need to prove it. We have the ability to prove these facts. And that's why we're asking for these products, these things, and these records.
Okay.
It's frustrating because she should be exonerated. What the Commonwealth should do is walk into the courtroom and say, you know what,
thank you, Terry. New member, everybody.
And we're going to go out and find the actual people who did this.
Thank you, Terry.
That's what they should be doing. That's my frustration. Right? Your guess is as good as mine. That's what we're trying to figure out. That's exactly what we're trying to figure out. The Massachusetts, certainly the Massachusetts State Police is involved. There are people that were in that house that are involved. Brian Albert is involved. Jennifer McCabe is involved. The rest of the folks that were in that house, there's some level of involvement by every one of them, every single one. And until we're not going to rest until we get to the bottom of exactly who's behind this cover-up, because not only Karen Reed deserves this. John O'Keefe deserves this.
said it feels we're the only ones fighting for the truth of what happened to John O'Keefe. And me and my family and my attorneys and my team have marshaled every resource to get to the truth. Just feels like no one else wants it.
Yeah, let's compare this. You know, Danielle makes a good point. Let's compare this. Unlike BK, Karen Reed tells everyone that she's listening, that she didn't do this. Yeah, let's just compare this. Why is it Brian Koberger, his alibi is, oh, I was just driving around, and didn't even say it. Spoke out through his lawyer. But Karen Reed has been out front face in the crowd, saying that she did not do this. There's no way she did it. She went home and left John at that party. Can you explain that to me? In my opinion, innocent people fight. They don't cower away. They get out in front and they speak. They stand up for themselves. All right, let's keep playing.
Karen, just to be clear, you didn't do it.
We know who did it, Steve. We know. And we know who spearheaded this cover-up. You all know.
Yes, we do. And no, she didn't do it. No, she didn't do it. This is an innocent woman. She didn't do it.
I tried to save his life.
Yeah.
I tried to save his life at 6 in the morning. I was covered in his blood. I was the only one trying to save his life.
Oh, they are fired
Thank you,
up.
Terry.
And
Thank you
guess
for your
who
gift.
else is fired up? Our think
Thank you.
tank. The prosecution's case just might get destroyed tonight. What a power panel I have with me on the couch. Let me bring them all in. Big welcome sitting next to me. Criminal defense investigator Charles Middlestat is here. Next to him, criminal defense attorney, Emory University law professor, and Georgia Innocence Project board member Molly Palmer. And next to her, criminal defense attorney Josh Schiffer. Welcome to you all. Oh boy, let's get talking. Okay. Can we start with what a blow this was today, the quashing of the subpoenas? Boy, does that stink. Almost as bad as the facts of this case stink. Josh Schiffer.
We talk all the time about how trials in criminal justice is so often a quest to hide something. And it's an exercise in what are we going to let a jury actually see? That was today. The defense stood up and said, hey, we know there's this evidence out there. It's cell phone evidence from the other people at the party. It's integral to our client's defense. If you guys really want the truth, you got to let us inspect this data.
Right.
And the judge turned around and shut them down. I am flabbergasted. I would be as uproariously angry as counsel was. I'm shocked that the truth is being stymied here by the state in what really looks like a cover-up now.
Right. Molly, tell me, does it look like the defense is going to...
The most important thing, you're going to hear me stop and do this a lot tonight. If you're just coming into the stream, please smash the like button. We want to get to 100 likes and over 100 likes tonight to prove to YouTube that the LTL is a worthy channel. It should be out there in the algorithm. Let's keep pounding that like button as you come in. Mods, just let us remind everybody as they're coming in, just smash that like button. We want to get up and over 100 likes tonight.
Have to kind of take the long way home, so to speak. You know, they wanted to get these two in for this hearing at this very early stage of the proceedings. But if it's not going to happen, do you think they're going to have to wait till trial for it to happen?
Well, you know, of course, the defense doesn't have the same powers as does the state. A defense attorney has to have a hearing to even issue a subpoena and ask for records. So without another hearing, I mean, I know there is one coming up soon, but if you've just had them quashed by the judge, the opportunities for the defense are far more limited. And so what I think is really interesting here is the media strategy.
Thank you.
I mean, that's what the defense is trying to do. I think the press conference was incredibly effective. I think Karen Reed is innocent. And I think they believe this with all of their hearts. And what they can do at this point is stand on the courthouse steps and share what they know with the public if inside the courtroom that's not going to be allowed.
That's right, Molly. Yeah, I'm with you. I know a lot of our courties think so too. They think that this is an innocent woman who's being framed and just outnumbered. Every time at Charles Middlestat she goes to court, the courtroom is packed with a sea of police. You know, and I'm very pro-police. I love our police. I'm so grateful for them. But I think every good cop I know would agree with the next statement I'm about to make. There's nothing worse than a dirty cop.
Yep.
You know, I'll take a criminal all day long
That's
before
the thing,
a
is
dirty
like,
cop, right?
You know, I think that's the thing. The minute that you go against one, everybody thinks that you go against all. And that's not in this case. It's not in this case. I truly believe in our justice system. I truly believe, and I back the blue. But if something's going on here, it needs to be exposed. These people need to be brought to justice, and Karen Reed needs to walk. There's so much reasonable doubt in this case. It's not even funny. I mean, it's almost laughable. We were hearing when they were having the hearings, you know, even just the last one they had in September, people are literally laughing when the prosecution's trying to say there's no connection between Proctor and Alberts. They're seen all over the place together. Their families take photos together. It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable.
Because they're held to a higher standard. And if that's what's going on here, I mean, how is this going to come down, Charles, like a house of cards? If this defense team is right, and that maybe those bite marks we're looking at right there might have been from a dog, you know, in the house, or from a fight, you know, who knows? If they're right, I mean, what might happen there to this department?
Well, sadly, Julie, we're not talking potentially about a dirty cop. We may be talking about several dirty cops, because
I went out there, and at 31 Fairview, there's a ring camera facing the street, right where they said everything happened. Where is that footage? Why haven't we seen it? Proctor went and asked. He said, "Oh, there's nothing on that camera. There's nothing that you need to see." There's ring cameras in that whole damn neighborhood. I walked the neighborhood a couple of days ago. I was down there. I did video from there. I showed the ring cams.
This is what the defense suspects it is, and what they're alleging it is. Then there's a conspiracy here, and the evidence that they articulated a good faith basis for getting access to. Is the type of evidence that can be very, very compelling, because it's digital evidence, and it's going to force certain individuals to answer very, very hard questions, because that evidence is going to be irrefutable in terms of phone calls that were made, phone calls that were placed, received, different research that was done, Google searches, things of that nature, that there is no way to explain away. And they need the ability they need access to that discovery, to that evidence, in order to put the pressure and identify. As an investigator, this is exactly the kind of evidence that I rely on to determine, like, who are the first 5 people they spoke to, develop their identities, interview those folks. What did you talk about? Right. What was the conversation like? What was that person's demeanor?
Listen, I don't want to, I don't want to say that we're taking away from the Idaho 4 case, but there's just nothing new in it. And I don't understand why these creators continue to make content on it. There's nothing more right now. That case is in a holding pattern. The case is in a holding pattern. And believe me, I dedicated many months of my life to covering that case, and I will continue to cover that case. But I sit here because we as creators have the ability to see what our subscribers, what other channels they're watching, what other content they're watching. If you literally go to their pages, it's the only content that these creators continue to make. I don't get it. We're literally in a 2 to 3 year holding pattern in that case right now. Yes, there will be other motions. Yes, we will see other documents that come out, but there's nothing that's going to break in that case unless a major piece of evidence comes out or a major finding comes out in that case. All the shit that these people are making and creating about that case now is just what I said, pure shit. There's nothing else there's nothing else. There's nothing else at this point. It just blows my mind. It completely blows my mind.
Going on.
There's other cases out there that have extreme importance, and I take a little bit more to this because this is my home state, and it's literally happened 20 minutes up the road from me. I'm becoming very passionate about this. If we have an innocent person, and I do believe that Karen Reed is innocent of this, if we have an innocent person, we need to fight for that person. We need to expose it. We need to get it out there.
Hold a timeline. And that timeline is ultimately what you can't push back on, because it is irrefutable. You have to explain these details.
Sure, appreciate it. Josh Schiffer, let me go to you on this one, please. I keep thinking about these prosecutors and what did they know? Because that's a tough position to be in, right? Because sometimes stuff goes on and you have no idea. The case gets in your lap and you're trusting that someone else did an honest investigation. You're trusting that they vetted every story and left no stone unturned, and you're just trying to be a minister of justice. But here, I mean, I'm just like, do they not see what might be happening?
And like good cops, good
that's all it is.
prosecutors get angry.
Everything that's being put out there is just speculative information. And I don't know why people keep to hold on here. They think that something's going to break in that case, that the video that they see from the creator is going to solve everything. It's almost goofy at this point. You know, and I'm not trying to be insensitive to the case. I think my feeling on it is that just whatever you're putting out there in the ether right now is just a bunch of garbage. There's nothing else that you're going to solve or break in the Idaho case right now. I mean, we're in probably a 2-year holding pattern till that case goes to trial, if it goes to trial. Terry, thank you so much for the 99 super sticker. I appreciate you. Thank you. Thank you so much.
When they see that kind of corruption, or even there's a phrase I love, the mere appearance of impropriety. Whenever you see something that just doesn't pass the smell test, and that's what we've got here. And good prosecutors get angry. They get motivated because they're out there. The best prosecutors out there are fixing and healing America one case at a time. And they want nothing more than to instill integrity back into a police department that, unfortunately, it has a history. This is not the first time Boston police have been wrapped up in some stuff that didn't pass the smell test. And I'm telling you, from the outside looking in, I can see how this case unfolds, how the scapegoat, Miss Reed, gets picked, and how this case proceeds to right now. I wish nothing but the best for her defense team. They've got a hard fight.
Definitely. And let's talk more about that. Molly, let me ask you, please, if you were on this defense team, what?
I don't think they have a hard fight. I think this is pretty... There's a lot of reasonable doubt. I can tell you that.
If anything else might you do to try to defend Karen Reed? And also, like you touched on, what they're doing there on the courthouse steps today in speaking out. What are the things you would do in court and out of court to help her?
I think that what they are doing, this aggressive defense approach, is what they have to do at this point. But I think we also have to remember that attorneys, we're counselors. That word, I take that literally. And you're standing beside a woman who lost the love of her life, who is being falsely accused, and who is going through this process probably as shocked and appalled as the rest of us, that this is how it's unfolding. So I think there's a lot of emotional work that they're having to do with her and her family and all of her supporters that are there alongside those police that we see inside all of these hearings as well. There's a lot of work beyond just litigating the case.
You're right.
You're helping the people who are accused.
You're right. Yeah, she went through a trauma. That's one thing to remember too. You know, she might be a defendant, but she was traumatized without question, trying to save his life, trying to do CPR at the end of all of that. We're going to keep a close eye. The hearing tomorrow has been canceled, so we'll keep you posted on the next court.
All right, let's go over again. Now, there was about a month ago, there was anger about witness intimidation. It's had a little bit to do, you know, they're saying witness intimidation. So we'll go here, Court TV. Please do me a favor, just upvote this stream. Let's get to 100 likes tonight. That's definitely our goal here on LTL this evening. We want to get up to 100 likes. So if you're just coming in the room, we get about 93 people. We'd love to get over 100 in here tonight consistently. And just upvote, because that will help push this out and get people in here. All right, let's play this through here, and then we're going to get to some Turtle Boy videos.
I'm Vinny Politan. Great to have you with us tonight. Right off the start this hour, we got a big story we've been covering up in Massachusetts. It involves a police officer. Here he is. John O'Keefe is his name.
Awesome. Thank
you.
Sure
he was 46 years old when he died. 16-year veteran of the Boston PD. Was taking care of his niece and nephew after the sudden death of his sister and brother-in-law. Just an overall good guy. He was really a good guy and loved. Take a look at this house. This is a house where he was found dead. He wasn't found dead in the house, but outside the house on the lawn. And the weather was nothing like you're looking at here. It was a snowy night. January 29th, 2022. That house belongs to a fellow officer, Brian Albert. And he was out drinking all night, John O'Keefe, and then was supposed to go to that house for an after party. And the allegations are that he never made it in the house by investigators, because they say his girlfriend, Karen Reed, take a look at her. They say that
I think Vinny thinks that she's not guilty. I think that Vinny doesn't. I think Vinny thinks that she didn't do this.
She was dropping him off at that house. They were out drinking together, going, bar hopping. And she was dropping him off at that after party. She didn't want to go in. And prosecutors allege that they got into a fight. They had been in a fight. And she purposely ran him over and then left him in the cold to die. Now, she's saying, no, that never happened. And police are covering this whole thing up. Like I mentioned, the house where he was supposed to go in is the house of a fellow officer. So you've got prosecutors saying it's her with her car, and you've got the defense saying, no, it looks like he was beaten up. And there's evidence in this case, obviously some physical evidence, like pictures of the victim, John O'Keefe. Take a look at this photo of his arm.
Dog bites, dog scratches.
And prosecutors are saying that's consistent with someone being, I guess, struck by a car.
Dog bites, dog scratches.
And the defense is saying, no, that's from a dog. And there was a dog in that house.
Dog bites, dog scratches.
Where they say he was murdered. A lot going on. A lot of controversy surrounding this case as well. And there are a bunch of people led by a local online personality named Turtle Boy, who takes a look at true crime cases. And a lot of people follow him, and people in the neighborhood all of a sudden are saying, hey, wait a minute, she's being wrongfully accused and wrongfully prosecuted in this case. And they have shown up at the courthouse in pretty large numbers, making a lot of noise. Take a look.
We're right here today, Jim McDermott, and we're not going to be quiet. We got it.
Well, by the way, I just ordered my free Karen Reed t-shirt from Turtle Boy, so I'm going to be wearing one. I'll be wearing one.
A lot of controversy, a lot of emotion attached to all this. Obviously, John O'Keefe is dead. His family believes he's murdered. Some of the fellow officers obviously also believe he's been murdered. And then you've got the defendant saying no, the defense team saying no, and now this groundswell of support in the community.
Right, 20 more likes to get to 100. There's 100 people in the chat room right now. Who hasn't smashed that like button? Take 2.5 seconds. That's probably too long. That would be like, take like 0.5 seconds. Leave your DNA on that like button. Let's smash it. Get up to 100 likes so we can push this damn stream out in that nasty YouTube algorithm. Let's go.
Or the accused murderer. Very unusual. Now, on top of this, it's not just happening at the courthouse, but it's also happening online.
The Pats lose.
And this isn't happening in a vacuum. Like all of this is now bubbling over.
Shit, they got blown out.
And the DA, who was prosecuting this case, furious at the way potential, who he calls witnesses, are being treated.
Ollie, thank you so much for the membership.
And he posted
Appreciate you.
a video online anger with what is going on and explaining a little bit about his case and the evidence.
If you've got a free membership or you have a membership, you can go over to my homepage and you can just click on that. Down at the bottom below, there is a lot of members only content. You can check that out. I do members only live streams as well. That is my main man, Ollie. Ollie, feel free to drop whatever link you want in there. Well, you know what I mean. Your Instagram link, if you want to do that. You can throw JJ's link in there as well. If you like wristwatch content and just guys and a bunch of shenanigans, you can go check out JJ's watch channel or check out Ollie's, my main man, Ollie, in the chat. Good dude. Very good dude. Thank you. And what do you want to do?
This will be the first statement of its
kind
Terry,
thank you for the
in my dozen years as Norfolk District Attorney. The harassment of witnesses.
Thank you, Terry. Appreciate
and
you.
the murder prosecution of Karen Reed is absolutely.
I'm gonna play this. I'm gonna play this after District Attorney. I'm gonna play this after this whole video so you can see it.
Baseless. It should be an outrage to any decent person, and it needs to stop. Innuendo is not evidence. False narratives are not evidence. However, what evidence does show is that John O'Keefe never entered the home at 34 Fairview Road in Canton the night he died. Location data from his phone, recovered from the lawn beneath his body when he was transported to the hospital shows that this phone did not enter that home. 11 people have given statements that they did not see John O'Keefe enter the home at 34 Fairview that night.
You know, again, this is the thing. This is the thing. This is what I talked about. Everybody saw everything else that night. Everybody saw everything else that night, but no one saw John. No one saw John until that morning. No one saw John until the ambulance showed up. No one saw John until the ambulance showed up. Everybody else saw everything. We read the PCA. They saw everything. They were looking out the window. They were in the party, this and that. They saw everything, but no one saw John that night. Where was John? John walking down the street. John walking down, hanging out down the street. Where the hell was he? Where was he?
Right. 0 people have said that they saw him enter the home. 0.
You are fake news.
Some have, without any evidence, pointed to 18-year-old Colin Albert, a nephew of the homeowner, and accused him of attacking John O'Keefe as he entered the home.
Come on, man.
But phone evidence shows O'Keefe never entered the home at all. Colin Albert didn't commit murder. Jennifer McCabe, Matthew McCabe, and Brian Albert. These people were not part of a conspiracy and certainly did not commit murder or any crime that night. They have been forthcoming with authority, providing statements, and have not engaged in any cover-up. They are not suspects in any crime. They are merely witnesses in the case. To have them accused of murder is outrageous. To have them harassed and intimidated based on false narratives and accusations is wrong. The autopsy of John O'Keefe was conducted by a forensic pathologist from the Office of the Chief Medical Examiner. The doctor found that the injuries that left John helpless in the cold were not a result of a fight. She further found—
Why would they have to come out and release a statement like this after? I've never seen anything like this before. Why would they have to come out after all the investigating and all the things that have been brought to light, all the truths that have been put out there, but now they have to come out and release another statement? And they've changed the way that John has died like 3 times. I don't know if you all know that. And like we said, the last statement was the 62 feet, 24 miles an hour in a snowstorm, 20 to 30 degree grade on a curved road. And Turtle Boy went out there, measured 62 feet, could only get up to 19 miles an hour before he got to the end of 62 feet on a clear day.
That the line of abrasions on his arm was consistent with blunt trauma, not an animal attack. I'm asking the Canton community and everyone who feels invested in this case to hear all the actual evidence at trial before assigning guilt to people who have done nothing wrong.
Isn't that kind of what he's doing right here? Isn't that what he's doing right here? Not assigning guilt? Assigning guilt?
And certainly before taking it upon yourself to harass citizens who evidence shows have done nothing in this matter but come forward and bear witness. We try people in the court and not on the internet for a reason. The internet has no rules of evidence. The internet has no punishment for perjury. And the internet does not know all the facts. Conspiracy theories are not evidence. The idea that multiple police department, EMTs, fire personnel, the medical examiner, and prosecuting agencies are joined in or taken in by a vast conspiracy should be seen for what it is, completely contrary to the evidence and a desperate attempt to reassign guilt. What is happening to the witnesses, some with no actual involvement in the case, is wrong. It is contrary to the American values of fairness and the constitutional value of a fair trial. It needs to stop now. I'm releasing this recorded statement rather than holding a news conference because my remarks need to be so narrowly tailored to the issue at hand while the prosecution is pending in Superior Court. But the message is the same. What is happening to these innocent people, these witnesses, is wrong and it needs to stop.
He's not happy. He is not happy at all. And this is going to happen throughout this case. There's going to be a back and forth. This is a very aggressive defense team, plus the folks who are showing up at the courthouse. And it's unusual. It's unusual in a case like this. So we'll focus on that part of the case at another night, but I want to focus on one thing that he said that I think may be the key to this entire trial and trying to figure out the truth. Whether John O'Keefe, the police officer, never made it inside that house and was struck immediately by his girlfriend and left on the ground as the snow fell that night and died. His cell phone was found, we understand, beneath his body. So the cell phone data, crucial.
There you go.
And the DA spoke about it. Take one more listen to what he said about the cell phone data, because personally, I think it may be the most important piece of evidence in the case.
Location data from his phone, recovered from the lawn beneath his body when he was transported to the hospital, shows that this phone did not enter that home.
Okay, I get it. But I also spoke with the defense team about the same phone. Take a listen.
It traveled multiple feet to the front door. It went up in elevation, up almost 3 floors. There's 3 floors in that house.
To what the defense says about the data they have related to the phone.
Thanks, Liz. Appreciate you.
Alan and I have been fighting tooth and nail to get all of the cell phone data that we can. And guess who has fought us back to prevent us from getting that information? It's been the prosecution. The Apple health data that Alan referenced earlier shows that he did walk, I think, approximately 80 steps and went up and down approximately 3 flights of stairs. You don't do that by getting out of a vehicle and being struck by the vehicle.
Thank you.
And I think Alan had said at one point, what did he do laps around the car and start jumping up and down and then got hit? It's fanciful. It's ridiculous. We know he went in that house. And it's just the tip of the iceberg.
If he goes in the house, she's not guilty. Period. But you've got two sides saying completely opposite things. I need some help. Let's bring in an expert to help sort it all out. Joining us tonight from Arlington, Virginia, a true pioneer in the field of mobile.
This is why I've been continuing to do these streams. If you're just coming over here tonight for the first time, I'm hoping that I'm opening your eyes up to this case, because this case is so important and it's so close. March 2024 is going to come very quick. And I want everybody to make sure they're aware of this case. Do your own research. There's plenty of content out there about this case, whether you think Karen Reed is completely innocent of this or she's a stone cold killer. But I urge you to join in this case. You need to talk about it. It's extremely important. It's extremely important.
Forensics, Director of Digital Forensics for Hive International, Sam Brothers is with us tonight. Sam, thank you so much. Great to have you. I need help here. I've got a prosecutor saying the location data of the cell phone says he never entered the home. And I've got the defense saying that the Apple Health information shows.
Okay, so we don't know where John walked, but we do know that John took, according to his health data on his iPhone health data on his phone, he took 82 steps towards that house. And then it shows his health, his Apple Health rise in elevation almost to the point of 3 floors. There's 3 floors on that house. You have a dog in that house. The scratches, scrapes, or abrasions that the prosecution says on his arms, they said were caused by John being hit by that car. Now, let me just put this out there. Let me get my voice here for a second. Why is it back in 2013, the Boston bombings, the Tsarnaev brothers, when they had the big shootout in Watertown, I believe it was Watertown, one of the, am I right on that? Watertown. Yeah, it was Watertown. One of the brothers gets in the vehicle to speed away from the police while they're in a shootout, ends up hitting his brother and running him over. His brother, his chest was all caved in. He had tire marks on him, had burn marks on him from the car driving over him. Why is it that John O'Keefe has no lower body injuries in this case? All his injuries were to his skull, multiple skull fractures, 2 blackened eyes, cuts under his eyes like boxer's injuries, abrasions and scratches on the arm. Now we know that there's a canine in that house. There's an MMA fighter in that house. Can you explain that? No lower body injuries. If you run over, wouldn't you have a tire mark on you or some bruising or, you know, a lower body injury, a cracked rib or a cracked leg or an arm? All his injuries, all his broken bone injuries are to his skull. And then he had a huge gash in the back of his head.
Him taking 80 steps, going up and down some stairs. Okay, can they both be true?
Yes, actually they can, Vinny, and it's a really good question. So it's really interesting that none of that GPS data shows that he's been in the house, and I think that is really of critical importance here.
So the fracture, that's right. I forgot about the right hand fracture. Right hand fracture, if you look at it, all bruised on the knuckles like a boxer's injury, like a defensive injury. Thank you for reminding me that. Thank you.
The information that the defense is talking about, this 80 steps and the 3 flights of going up and down, that health data is actually written out to the data set every
on Turtle Boy's
60 seconds. So that information could be up to 60 seconds old. So, and even that information could be affected by weather, which we both know was pretty bad at the time. So the 100% accuracy of that information, I couldn't rely on 100% anyway. So maybe off slightly. And also, again, like I said before, that information could have been held for a little bit. So there could be some delay in that information getting written to the phone itself. Does that make sense?
It does. So now we know what they were doing before, right? So the prosecution theory is they're in a car coming back from the bar. So that's going to take more than a minute. So they'd just be sitting in the car.
Yeah, and going over things like speed bumps and things like that could also trigger things like steps.
Well, I like him to get back in touch with me. I like to get him over here on LTL. I mean, I worked out all the details with him. We worked out what I was going to pay him to come on the podcast. Obviously, you have to pay guests. So I've never, you know, when you have a high profile guest, you got to pay him. You know, people don't realize that. And I'm in podcasts, they go, "Oh, you paid for your guest." Of course I did. You don't think that people don't get paid when they go sit on Joe Rogan's podcast? Of course they get paid, or their amenities are taken care of. Their hotel, their plane, you know, their flight, their food, that gets all taken care of. I was actually communicating with them, going back and forth, and just kind of went cold on me. So again, I'm going to try to reach out to him maybe sometime this week. We can line something up. I'd love him to come over here because he's been frontline reporting on this case. We need to hear from him. You know, I got a lot of questions for him. We need to hear from him. So I urge you to do this. Go to his page, comment on his videos, let him know, hey, hook up with LTL. He wants to have you as a guest on his panel. Maybe that will recharge him and take a look, take a look on this channel. I want to get him over here. All right, let's keep playing through this.
And things like barometric pressure. So even going up a hill may also affect or trigger the iPhone to thinking that it's going uphill or even downhill. So that could also
thank you, H-Bag. That's great. Thank you.
Or make it think that he's going up or down steps.
I get it. I listen, I completely understand. He's a super, super busy guy. He's got his own entity to work around. We were trying to work out a time and he went cold. I get it. He gets busy. But my invitation is out there. We just got to get a time and a date. And I really want to get him over here. Okay. We'll keep playing through here.
Well, so that, again, scientifically could lead one to believe that he might be going up or down steps and would be a logical explanation for what's going on here.
And can driving in a car replicate taking steps?
It absolutely could. This up and down jarring motion could certainly do that, replicate that kind of information in a device on occasion.
We do too. We do too.
There are several factors that go into creating the data that goes into that health database. And, it is certainly plausible in this case. And since we know he was in a car traveling just before he got there, it certainly sounds like that in this case. Does that make sense?
Yes. And one final question. What do you suppose the Apple Health would say if he is struck by a car?
I would expect that GPS data to stop suddenly. And I also would expect that if he's wearing some kind of a watch monitor, I would expect that heart monitor to stop as well. And I would expect that his GPS data would stop. I would expect all of that to be consistent.
Sam Brothers, I'm sure we're going to be calling on you again and again and again.
That's where she broke her taillight. She definitely backed up into John O'Keefe's car. You can see his car nudge forward, and you can see her car nudge as well, too. That's where the broken taillight came in.
Appreciate your time tonight. I know how valuable it is.
Thank you very much. Appreciate your time, Ben.
All right, let's bring in our think tank. Joining us tonight in Englewood Cliffs, New Jersey, criminal defense attorney, former prosecutor Albert Wunsch III. Also joining us in Stamford, Connecticut, criminal defense attorney Darnell Crossland. And in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, family law attorney Jennifer Brandt. Great to see everyone tonight. Okay, I'm trying to figure out, if they can prove that he went in the house, the defense, I believe it's game over here. What do you make of all this, Al? Our expert says, wait a minute, these two findings could be consistent. Maybe the car could replicate some of this Apple Health stuff. What do you think, Al?
Smashing it.
I think the jury's got to have a headache with this one, trying to figure this out, because this is a very, very key, crucial issue. And if they can't tell me whether or not it was because he was going up and down on the street for 60 seconds before he got hit by the vehicle, or because he was actually in the house, I mean, that is crucial to this case. And it may bring that reasonable doubt up for a jury as to whether or not this is exactly what the prosecution is saying happened. I also don't think it was a brilliant move for the prosecutor or the district attorney in this case to get up there and make that public service announcement. I thought that was ridiculous.
Well,
I mean, that's not
let me tell you, things are getting intense. Things are getting super intense up there.
I understand that, but you know what? He's supposed to be above that. And for him to get on there and give this thing and just like, I want it to stop now, like that's going to make it stop. It's going to make it worse. I mean, I've dealt with substitute teachers.
That's true.
Every time, a substitute teacher tells me this is going to stop now, it got worse in my class. And that's what's going to happen in this situation.
Darnell, what do you think tonight?
I wish I was there. But anyway, so I do know that this prosecutor was really upset. The reason why I know that is because his right eyebrow, this one, was always 4 inches higher than the left. And as it relates to his press conference, he says we should not try a case in the media right before he gave all this evidence in the media. So I didn't understand that either. But this is what I want everybody to realize. If one could argue that going up steps was indicated by the Apple device, the prosecution is going to have a hard time saying, yes, that could be that, but it also could be a speed bump, or it could be going up steps. It's almost like Philip Morris arguing about what can cause cancer. It could be peanut butter. It could be all. Once you're arguing that in the negative, you're losing. So if they're coming out the gate already saying that it could be this, but also could be any of these other things, they're losing. So like you said, it's game over if he's in the house, but it sounds like it's going to be definitely a hung jury or not guilty if they're going to be arguing about speed bumps and hills.
All right, Jennifer Brandt, do you want to talk about the phone evidence? Do you want to talk about the DA's eyebrow?
I think I'd rather focus on the DA's eyebrow, Vinny, because it was definitely up. But I agree with Darnell. I mean, talking about this case and bringing up all this evidence is exactly what he's telling people not to do. And, he's basically enticing people to come in and make a bigger issue of all of this. And by the way, where does this guy, the turtle guy, I mean, and all of these people, where do they have the time get involved in this case and be so passionate about it.
They're journalists because this is because we see something that doesn't look right here, and we want to get attention on it. That's why we get the time, because we become passionate about things when we see something that doesn't look right in our state, in our towns, and in our communities. So I don't know where this lady's speaking from, but if something's going wrong in my state, my community, my town, and I feel passionate about it, I'm going to speak about it.
But that to me is really incredible, that you have all these people in the community supporting the defendant here. And you know why? They really are following this, looking closely at it.
Oh, I had Turtle Boy on the show, and he said,
am I really hearing this right now?
Because he believes that this is someone being wrongfully convicted. He's usually on the side of police.
To get all these people together, I mean, this is going to be some trial.
Yeah.
I mean, this is going to be something to watch for sure.
By the way, Al, I'll give you a little piece of history on that courthouse. That's where Sacco and Vanzetti were wrongfully convicted up in Dedham. I know you knew that.
I did know that, and I stayed in their cell, which is now a high-priced hotel in Boston.
Of course you stayed there. Of course he did. All right,
let's hear Turtle Boy. Karen Reed might be guilty for murder of John O'Keefe if you ignore all these red flags. Let's get to it.
70 blogs in Canton on the Karen Reed murder case. And although many of you have read every story we published, it can be a little difficult to keep up as new information is made public. To understand just how ridiculous this attempting lynching of an innocent woman is, I thought it would be helpful to put together a list of the top 50 things you must ignore in order to arrive at the conclusion that Karen Reed is guilty. If you're unfamiliar with the Karen Reed case, I recommend you watch our feature video, Framed, Commonwealth versus Karen Reed. This will give you a full and comprehensive background to this ongoing story. The link can be found in the description below.
So number 50, Michael Proctor interviewed Jen and Matt McCabe and Brian and Nicole Albert together. This image right here was taken at 9 a.m. on the day John O'Keefe was done. 3 hours earlier, his body was found on that lawn. And that's Jen McCabe's car in the driveway. And there's not much snow there. Well, 2.5 hours later at 11:30, Michael Proctor interviewed Jen and Matt McCabe and Brian Albert, but he didn't interview them here. Why wouldn't he interview them here? Because there was just a murder there. And they all know that, so they can't be in there. So they need to get out of there. So he gives them time. What are they doing in there? They're getting their story straight. Of course they are. And then they're going across town, and they're going to have an interview over there, the friends and family meeting. Michael Proctor doesn't record anything, and just, he knows them all, has been friends with all of them, and I'm sure it was pretty informal. Second thing, that there was no interviews conducted by Michael Proctor at on video or at a police station. Not one. Not Karen Reed, not Jen McCabe, not Brian Albert. All of these reports were interviews. Not a single one of them is recorded. So everything you're reading about what witnesses said is the testimony of Michael Proctor, who we know is a liar and an unethical, corrupt cop. So you can't trust anything that he says. Remember the 3-point turn. How do we know Karen Reed did a 3-point turn? She denies it. Jen McCabe and Matt McCabe deny it. Well, because Michael Proctor said that she said it. That's literally all it is. So there's that. Number 48, no one besides Karen Reed was ever considered or treated as a suspect, despite the fact that she has no criminal record, no history of violence, and is a well-respected member of the community. Those things matter during murder investigations. Your criminal background matters. And she was the only one who was ever considered it, despite the condition of his body, despite a serious lack of evidence, despite no taillights being found at the scene, nothing. She was the only one who was ever treated as a suspect in this. They picked their target early on and they worked backwards from there. 47. The Commonwealth story is that a vehicle going 5 miles an hour in reverse killed a 6'2", 217-pound man, causing multiple skull fractures and lacerations to his arm, despite the fact that he landed on grass and snow. 46. There was never an accident reconstruction report that ever took place. Every time somebody dies in an automobile accident, the police do a accident reconstruction report. Nothing like that has ever happened in this case, ever. And you just have to ignore that in order to believe that that Karen Reed did this. And you have to think that's normal. Because, of course, if you did an accident reconstruction, you would notice how absurd it is to believe that she killed him going however many miles an hour in reverse, and that she assumed that he was dead and felt comfortable just abandoning him there. 45. John O'Keefe's body had to have been struck with enough force to have flown 12 feet in the air because he landed 12 feet from the curb. Number 44. You have to ignore the fact that the Commonwealth has not even attempted to come up with the theory for how John O'Keefe died. Like, that's a big one. They never attempted to explain how he died or how he got lacerations on his arm. Every murder case has a theory. The prosecution has no theory. Listen to this.
The damages to the right rear corner panel of the defendant's vehicle. Embedded within the bumper to that vehicle is pieces of cocktails. The victim, Mr. O'Keefe, is last observed on surveillance video, external surveillance video from the waterfall establishment that he left just prior to going to 34 Fairview, with a cocktail glass in his right hand. Same arm that's injured, the same type of glass that is then recovered from the bumper of the defendant's car.
This is the first I've heard of the Commonwealth's new position after, 15, 16 months, that somehow John O'Keefe was stabbed or cut up with a broken cocktail glass, which would produce these injuries. That makes absolutely no sense. It just doesn't pass the safety test. These are not from a cocktail glass. Who did that to him? Is there a new theory that Karen Reed got out of the car, broke a cocktail glass, then wielded an edge of that cocktail glass and cut up John's arm? Then John stood there while she jumps in the car, slams it in reverse, then hits him with the car.
Yeah, that's
with her tail light in the back of the head.
It's like, is that what happened? I don't know, because they haven't said a theory yet. They haven't explained it yet. They're just like, well, look at him. He's dead, and she did that. So just ignore all this logic and thought, and just ignore it. Okay, number 43, you have to ignore the fact that no one interviewed the man who plowed 34 Fairview road that night to see if the body was lying in the snow. You have to ignore that because a plow came through there multiple times during that night. They were never interviewed because they would have seen a body lying there. They would have at least been asked, did you see a body, sir? But they didn't. And of course, they haven't even pursued this. You have to ignore that the Commonwealth is withholding several pieces of evidence, including DNA from John's body that exculpates Karen Reed, which they have been ordered by the court several times to give to the defense. Number 41, if Karen Reed killed John O'Keefe, you have to ignore the fact that she knew that the angry voicemail she left him, in which she said, I hate you, John, that would be used against her as evidence. You just have to ignore that. That they want us to believe that this woman killed him and is like, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to make myself look more guilty by leaving an angry voicemail. No, you know what a killer does? They leave like a message that's like, I love you so much, John. I would never do anything bad to you. Yeah. Number 40, you have to ignore the fact that every single person that claims that she said that, I hit him is related to the McCabe's or the Alberts, and that includes the Canton Fire Department employee. 39, to ignore that no one saw or heard a man being hit with such tremendous force that it knocked him to the ground, nor did anyone hear him calling for help. House full of people, not a single person heard that thud, boom, of a man being hit with such force or the screeching of a tire, of him screaming out in agony. Ryan Nagel was right there. Number 38, you have to ignore that John O'Keefe's body had no bruising, no cuts, no broken bones on his abdomen, legs, midsection, or left arm, despite the fact that his midsection, his hips, his stomach, that area of his body, his thighs, that would have been the part hit by Karen Reed's bumper if he was standing up. But instead, he's unscathed there. The only damages to this man's body are the skull fractures to his head, the eyes popping out, the laceration in the back of his head, and the 7 or 8 parallel cuts on his arm. 37, you have to ignore that Jen McCabe claims to have not seen a 217-pound body laying in plain view, illuminated by snow and obstructed by nothing at 6:03 a.m. while riding in the front seat of a car, specifically looking for a body. We went and we recreated the scene. That's what they would have seen, except it would have been more illuminated with the 1 or 2 inches of snow. You have to ignore number 36, that Jen McCabe, Matt McCabe, Julie Nagel, Sarah Levinson, Colin Albert, whoever drove Colin Albert home, Brian Higgins, Brian Albert Jr., and whoever else was inside 34 Fairview Road and left that night somehow did not see John O'Keefe's body on the front lawn, despite less than 2 inches of snow falling. Oh, but it's a conspiracy, Turtle Boy. Surely, if one of them saw the body, someone's going to say something. Well, maybe the body wasn't there yet. Yeah, you're onto something. You're so close. You have to ignore that a pool owned by Tim Albert at the home where all the Alberts gather was filled in for no apparent reason 1 week after the Alberts were named in court for the first time as potential suspects by Karen Reed's defense attorneys. Number 34, you have to ignore that Jen McCabe Googled how long to die in cold at 2:27 a.m., despite telling police that she believed John O'Keefe had gone home with Karen Reed and had never been inside there. You know what the prosecution has said? Is that, oh, well, she was on another browser for Ozone Basketball. Well, guess what else I found out today about that? As an emailer points out, have you actually checked out the Ozone Basketball website? And the answer is no, I have not. I've never checked out the Ozone Basketball website. And they go on to say that the Ozone website does not have scores or schedules on the site. And I went and verified that. They don't. Additionally, Ozone Basketball does not have winter AAU. Therefore, there would be no score to check for Jen McCabe about her kids. Number 33, you have to Google that Jen McCabe Googled how long to die in cold again at 6:24 with the exact same spelling mistake, HOS, at 6 that she did at 2:27, the exact same one. And that she also Googled it at 6:23 spelled differently, wasn't happy with the way that came up, and so Googled it the wrong way, a different way. You have to believe that that's normal. Number 32, you have to ignore that Jen McCabe deleted all of her calls, texts, and Google searches before and after finding John O'Keefe's body. That's nothing else. She called people all day. She didn't delete any of those, just the ones right before and after finding the body. She also deleted a screenshot of Brian Albert's phone number and a Google search for how long to digest food, which could be used by a pathologist to determine time of death. You just have to ignore it all. Number 31, you have to ignore that Jen McCabe called John O'Keefe 6 times in a panic between 12:40 and 12:50 a.m., despite having no reason to believe that anything bad had happened to him, and despite claiming that she saw Karen Reed drive away at 12:45. So wouldn't she have assumed that he just went home? Isn't that what she told the police? So why is she calling him like he's missing already at between 12:40 and 12:50? Next, you have to ignore that the Commonwealth claims that Jen McCabe never Googled how long to die in cold at 2:27 a.m., but then filed a motion to cancel an evidentiary hearing where Adam Lally could have cross-examined forensic expert Richard Green, who claimed that she made and then deleted that search, as well as the other incriminating calls and text messages. You just have to ignore that. I mean, that's wild. The Commonwealth is stating, no, those Google searches that your expert pointed out, those aren't real. And instead of proving it by cross-examining him, we're just going to cancel the hearing altogether. 29, you have to ignore that Trooper Nicholas Guarino's extraction report intentionally left out all of Jen McCabe's incriminating Google searches that directly inculpates her. You just have to ignore that. That the information that they gave the defense was missing all of this shit. And you have to think that's normal. Okay. You have to ignore that the Commonwealth's only explanation for her 2:27 Google search was that it never happened because she was on Ozone Basketball checking scores, which we now know couldn't happen because they don't have scores on there. Number 27, you have to ignore that Colin Albert called Tom Beatty's daughter, Erin, at 12:33 a.m. to ask for a ride home. You just have to ignore that right around the time when his phone stops moving, boom, calls Erin Beatty. And you have to think that's normal. Number 26, that Jen McCabe called Tom Beatty 3 times between 5:30 a.m. and 6 a.m., despite having no reason to call him, since Beatty was not at 34 Fairview Road and would have no idea about John O'Keefe's whereabouts. You have to ignore the only evidence tying Karen Reed to the crime scene are pieces of taillight found by the search team 12 hours after discovering O'Keefe's body. But then you have to ignore that there is Ring camera footage showing her.
So she's pulling out in the black SUV, and that's the victim's SUV parked. And the defense says that she makes contact, hits the victim's SUV right there, damaging that back right passenger side taillight. And they also claim you can see, you know, the victim's SUV move, indicating that there was a collision. And then as she pulls away, they say that you can tell.
Oh, part of her taillight's missing. There it is. There's a bulb missing there. So pretend like you didn't see that video. I didn't see nothing there. Just ignore it, because that's what Adam Lowley's doing. Just ignoring that. Number 24, you have to ignore that the Canton police reported finding no taillight evidence at the scene of the crime at 6 a.m. Then you have to ignore number 23, that 12 hours later, state police under the direction of Michael Proctor found more taillight fragments. The pieces of taillight are not found under the snow. They're found on top of the snow, which is now accumulated over a foot in the 12 hours since then. How the hell does I
just got to ask, and I'm going to take sorry, I've been kind of working on some other stuff here. I'm going to take a poll here. I want to see if I'm waking up some eyes. Hang on one second. Shit. Let's do this. Let's cancel that. Yeah, well, it looks like Karen Reed. Let's do this. Am I waking up some eyes on this case? All right. Now, poll at the top. Take the poll. Take the poll. Let's see. What do we got?
A piece of taillight end up on top of the snow. What? And a shoe. Somehow the Canton Police Department missed a shoe and a hat. They missed it all. None of that was out there. Remarkably, but the CERT team found it after a foot of snow had fallen. Very impressive. Number 22, that Michael Proctor never disclosed that he was a close family friend of the Albert McCabe families. You have to ignore that 88 Lally lied in court when he said that this image of Proctor with McCabe's daughters was not actually a picture of their daughters. Those are Jen McCabe's kids. The two kids in the back are Jen McCabe's kids. Adam Lally said, no, the girl in the foreground is not her kid. Okay, we know that's not her kid. The two girls in the back are. We know that because there's pictures of them all over Jen McCabe's page. Those are her kids. It's undeniable. But you just have to ignore the fact that the Commonwealth is saying that he's never met the McCabes. Number 21, you have to ignore the fact that alarm.com footage from Karen Reed's parents' house at 4:12 shows Proctor lied when he said the car was towed at 5:30 p.m., which gave him 1 hour and 18 minutes of being unaccounted for with the car. You then have to ignore that taillight fragments were found on top of over a foot of snow at 34 Fairview Road at 5:45. You then have to ignore that Michael Proctor knew that CERT team would be there by 5:45, and by saying that the car was towed at 5:30 p.m., that would make it impossible for him to physically have planted evidence by 5:45, since Canton is more than 15 minutes away from Dighton. Number 20, you then have to ignore that Dighton police records show that Proctor called for a tow from Karen Reed's parents' house at 2:30 p.m., despite having not seen the broken taillight and despite claiming that he didn't get there until 4.
PCA is pinned to the top, Cater. PCA is pinned to the top of the chat.
4:30. You then have to ignore that Michael Proctor misspelled the names of 5 witnesses wrong, all of whom were in 34 Fairview Road that night, including the homeowner's daughter, a nurse, the daughter of the town administrator, and Brian Albert Jr.'s girlfriend. That all of them had their names spelled wrong in the report. Number 18, you have to ignore that despite being material witnesses who drove past and were just feet away from John O'Keefe's body, like when they left at 2:30, they would have driven going south on Fairview and his body would have been sitting 12 feet away from them. And you would have to ignore the fact that all 4 people in that car didn't see him, and that the 2 people in the back, Sarah Levinson and Julie Nagel, were never questioned by police until over a year afterwards. Number 17, you have to ignore that this loser, Police Chief Ken Berkowitz, found taillight fragments from a moving vehicle a week after the incident at 34 Fairview Road. You then have to ignore that he contacted a reporter on February 1st and asked that reporter to remove a tweet that contained factual information that O'Keefe's body was found on the front lawn of Brian Albert's house because Brian Albert was a, quote, pillar of the community. Number 16, despite a night of drinking, that Jen McCabe's Apple Health data shows her moving around the house until 4:53 a.m. until she got a call from Karen Reed. You think that's normal? Number 15, that Ryan Nagel told police that Karen Reed was alone in her car after he arrived at 34 Fairview Road just seconds before she got there and dropped John O'Keefe off. That his testimony said that she was sitting in her car with the interior light on so he could fully see it, and her hands were at 10 and 2, and that John O'Keefe was not in the car, was not on the ground around the car, and you just have to ignore that testimony in order to believe that Karen Reed did this. You have to ignore number 14, that both Jen and Matt McCabe claim that they saw Karen drive south on Fairview Road, which means that she never did a 3-point turn. 13, after a night of drinking, witness Brian Higgins, elected the ATF agent who was in the house, elected to clock into work at 1:30 a.m. at the Canton Police Department in order to have an alibi. Number 12, you have to ignore that 2 minutes of footage from the Canton Library, the exact 2 minutes when Karen Reed would have driven by the Canton Library and shown her taillight in a state of pristine condition because it hadn't hit anything at the time. You would just have to ignore the fact that 2 minutes, those 2 minutes are missing, and that the prosecution has no explanation for where they are. Number 11, Jen McCabe claims that she saw Karen Reed leaving at 12:45, which could easily be disproven with camera footage from not only the Canton Library, but from hundreds of homes that she would have passed on her way home, as well as the Canton MBTA station. You have to ignore that the police made no attempt to get any footage from any of those homes, but they did attempt to get footage from homes on Cedar Crest and Dedham Street, which is the way she would have gone had she done a 3-point turn. Number 10, you have to ignore that the Ring camera footage from John O'Keefe's home that would have shown Karen Reed's taillight condition after arriving back home is also mysteriously missing, and that the only party requesting the Ring camera footage is the defense. Number 9, John O'Keefe's brother described his body as looking like he went 5 rounds of Mike Tyson, while also ignoring the fact that Brian Albert is a known fighter who recently assaulted BPD officer Eddie Hernandez at a Christmas party.
Sergeant Albert cut his teeth as a Marine in Operation Desert Storm. He views his work back in Boston as equally important. And he knows it's just as dangerous.
So that guy could probably hurt someone. Number 8, you have to ignore that Colin Albert didn't like John O'Keefe and has a long and documented history of threatening to beat up and or kill people on social media, and that he had scars on his knuckles 4 weeks later on images that he posted on Visco.
Fuck you, you pussy. Yeah. Clean cold, boy, you be knocked out. KO. Bang, bang.
Bang, bang. Number 7, you have to ignore that Brian Albert, a trained first responder, never came outside after Jen McCabe called his wife at 6:07 and 6:08, alerting them that a dead Boston cop was found on his front lawn. That he just didn't find that interesting enough to come outside. That he did not see all of the blue lights and hear all the commotion on his front lawn. Did not even think about going outside. That did not cross his mind. He just bunkered down in his house. You also have to ignore that McCabe deleted those phone calls and has no explanation for why she did that. Number 6, you have to ignore that despite the fact that a body was found on the property of 34 Fairview Road, the house was never searched, and the area where O'Keefe's body was discovered by that flagpole was never sectioned off or treated as a crime scene. As a matter of fact, randoms were just kind of walking through the neighborhood, gawking at it during the middle of the day. Again, this is around 9 a.m. There's no one's there. There's no tape, nothing. Body was literally found right there. Think of how easy it would have been to come out and do the Shawshank Redemption thing, right? Sprinkle through your pants, a little tail light here, a little tail light there, maybe a shoe here, toss it around. Oh, where'd that come from? Number 5, John O'Keefe's phone moved up and down flights of stairs inside, according to a forensic expert who does this for a living, inside 34 Fairview Road,
like
1221 to
what is it that Dave Chappelle when just sprinkle some crack on him, be okay. I don't know if you ever saw that, Dave Chappelle, when they just sprinkle some crack on him, you'll be okay. It's just why is everybody turning up with crack sprinkled all over them and they're dead?
to 1224, despite testimony from the Alberts and McCabe's, they never stepped foot in that house. Again, the Commonwealth claims that they have an expert who will refute this. But they then filed a motion to cancel the evidentiary hearing where that expert could make her case to the court and explain why the other expert was wrong. They canceled the goddamn hearing. Number 4, you have to ignore that after being named as a suspect by Karen Reed's attorneys, Brian Albert not only sold his family home that had been in the family for multiple generations, but also got rid of their 6-year-old family German Shepherd and then had his basement floor replaced. Number 3, you have to ignore that John O'Keefe's phone was discovered underneath his body, not in his pocket, underneath his body, indicating that it had been planted there and that the phone stopped moving at 12:31 a.m. after ascending and descending stairs minutes earlier, and then began moving again after police found his body. Number 2, you have to ignore that he had a lateral gash. Like, look at that gash on the back of his head. Oh no, stop showing autopsy photos. Nope, probably going to show it many times more now. What about if his family sees that? Oh, good. I hope they see it. I hope they do see it. Because when they see this, they'll know that Karen Reed couldn't do this. This laceration to the back of the head, which...
All right, I'm just going to pop that out for a second. I'll bring it back up in a second. I want to be sensitive to that content.
That's not a... to ignore his right arm being covered in lacerations, and only then can you reach the conclusion that Karen Reed killed John O'Keefe. You have to ignore all of those facts. It's just that simple, folks.
All right, I got a couple quick videos here, and then we're gonna end this. This was the view from 31 and 34 Fairview. I was out there the other day as well, and just see what you can see here. I mean, there's cameras everywhere.
All right, we're on Fairview Road. We're gonna go over here to 31 Fairview and just knock on the door. So look at how close that is. Look at that angle right there from 31 Fairview. It's got a ring right there.
Yeah, that's the I have video of that ring cam too. When I walked out the other day, it's still there.
Look at that angle right there. How could it not pick it up? That's where the body was dropped. It's the perfect angle. They have wide lenses too. I mean, look at that right there. That wouldn't pick it up. Look at that. I mean, there's a car in the driveway, right? Someone's got to be home.
All right, doesn't look like they're going to answer. I could ring one more time. Because again, this is astounding. Look how close that is. It's right there.
I can even put my camera up there and see the view.
Yeah. Like that's the view it would have gotten.
That's the exact view.
Wow. It's right there. Okay. All right, on to the next one. Let's go to 30.
Yeah, there's some really, really nice houses in that neighborhood. Really, really nice houses in those. Okay, John. So I'm gonna challenge you for a second. Why will they not release that Ring camera video? Why will they not release that Ring camera video? I'm gonna fight with you on this one, brother. You know I care about you. I like you. But why will they not give that video up? Explain that to me. They won't give it up. And there's multitude of evidence that they will not hand over the defense. Why? If it's not that simple, that video would clear everything up. Why will that video not be turned over?
Seeing when cars left too to verify the timeline, you know?
Oh, totally. It would have, if anything, it would have a perfect view of her car leaving.
Yeah.
Because she went south. Or if it, like, there would be, because the Ring camera picks
No one will turn over their video in that neighborhood. No one will turn that video over in that neighborhood. It's like Copland, brother. It's like Copland. There's all cops in that neighborhood. No one will turn over their video. Why? That leaves me a lot of doubt in this case. If I was on a jury, there's no way right now I could convict this girl. Couldn't do it.
Noises. Like
I don't have enough here to convince me that she did this. I'm sorry. I'm gonna disagree with you all day on this case. I love you, brother, but we're gonna disagree a lot. And that's why I question everybody. If the law enforcement angle wasn't in this, and we just put that all aside and just say it's corrupt neighbors, would you feel the same way? That's what I'm saying. Would you feel the same way? And I pose that question to the people that think this might have happened, that Karen is guilty of this. Doesn't make any sense to me, man. Doesn't make any sense to me. Why is the video not being released?
So now we're going to go to 31 Fairview Road. Knock on this door. Another one that would have, so there's 34 Fairview. And that's where the body was, right between the flagpole. Again, and closer to the fire hydrant. Right there, okay? Right where the mulch starts. Somehow her car propelled him up that far. And again, look, it's not a big lawn. Like Matt McCabe's standing in the window and looks outside.
And that's the thing that's very strange about this too. That whole day, that whole night, everybody saw everything. Everybody saw everything, but no one saw John. No one saw John at all. But everybody saw everything else. If you read the PCA, everything is such in detail that everybody saw, but they never say anything about John. I find that hard to believe.
Sees her car do a 3-point turn right there and doesn't see anything else. Like doesn't see, he says he sees V-shaped tire marks, but doesn't see a gigantic body lying in the snow. So here's 31 Fairview, another one. But they have a Ring camera. We'll see what they say. $33 Fairview, rather.
They had a Ring camera.
Another Ring camera. Everyone's got Ring, huh?
Now, this is a neighbor's house, right?
This is a neighbor's house, correct. It's across the street, and that is the view that their Ring camera would have. They would certainly have if John went into the house, because Karen dropped him right off in that driveway. On the Ring, can't they get a notification on their phone, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, they can see me wherever they are.
Yeah.
I'm here, and I mean you no harm. Just have a couple questions. We're trying to get justice for John O'Keefe. Figured you might like to help. an innocent man was murdered across the street from you, and just kind of wanted to see if you had footage or if the police asked for footage at all. So I'm not sure if anyone's hearing this right now, but you can reach me on Facebook at Clarence Woods Emerson or email me turtleboysports@gmail.com. I'd love to know. Thank you. All right. All right, let's go to 34 Fairview. So again, this is Karen pulls in from Cedar Crest over there. Pulls up here. John jumps out. Oh, there's a little boy there. I
think we should do it. All right. That is it. That's all I have for this evening. So again, you know, a lot of reasonable doubt for me. A lot of reasonable doubt in this for me. So with that being said, I'm going to end our presentation for this evening. If you would like to go over and watch the Turtle Boy live feed right now, you can. I just dropped the link there. I'm going to pop over and take a look in his chat and see what's going on. That's it. That's all I got. Tomorrow night, I will not be here. I'm starting my new job tomorrow, so I need to focus on that. But hopefully I'll be back this week, Tuesday, Wednesday. I definitely know Thursday I'll be here, and we'll put together some other streams. So I want to thank everybody that came into the chat tonight, all the new members. Terry, fantastic tonight. Terry with a 2, Terry with another 2. Terry became a new member. Donna with a 3, thank you. Terry with another 3, Terry with a 99, and Terry finally with a 2. So again, I'm going to take tomorrow night off. I have a late night tomorrow night, starting with my new job, and hopefully all goes well. And you know, I'll let you know how it goes. It takes a little bit of time to get in and kind of analyze the situation, figure out how things are going to run, get into your groove, as they say, and that'll be it. So tomorrow, no content here on LTL. I'll be back. Let's see, what's my schedule for Tuesday? I will look at my schedule. Schedule. Hang on. Just killing time here. Let's see. Where's my schedule? Why can't I find it? I can't find it. Oh, that's not going to work. Let's see. Tuesday I'll get a show in. Wednesday I'll get a show. Thursday, Friday I won't have one. Saturday it'll be a late, and then Sunday I'll have a show. So be some content this week. Thank you, everybody. Thank you for the subs coming in, all my new members, all the super chats. I appreciate it. And I will be back. Thank you for all the good lucks too. All right. Tomorrow, if you want to, again, Turtle Boy's live right now. You can jump over and check out his stream. I'm going to jump over there and see what's going on. With that being said, I'm Brian, LTL Podcast. Thank you all so much, the new subscribers, all the new members, and all the people to just come over and check things out. So we'll see you in the next one. Bye.